Yeah.
Continue.
What's up? What should we call this thing? The curiosity engine? Do you like that, Peter?
Yeah, I like that. That's what we had kind of speculated towards the last time, I think.
I think that's a great way to go about it.
The curiosity engine.
Let's state our principles. Like, what's our principles and our purpose? Like, why? I think you go. This is spontaneous, so please.
All right, yeah, no, super spontaneous. We're on the cuff right now, straight off the cuff. Principles would be
like, what would we want to do or never want to do? Always want to do, never want to do.
Well, we'd always want to obviously follow our name, be curious in some sort of organized, constructive manner. That should be pretty easy because what we're curious about should be pretty much flow day over day. I
love it.
Yeah, I used to want to like prepare for everything.
Yes.
Now I'm just like, I just like was doing whatever, and then I like grabbed my iPad, sat down, we're ready to go.
I love it. I love it. Intrinsic, right? It should be intrinsic,
yes.
Like coming from the inside out. Because gosh darn it, isn't the entire world just a weird set of hooks for your nervous system? They're trying to draw you into their marketing funnel.
Yeah, they're trying too hard. That's what we're saying. We're off the cuff here. Everyone else is trying too hard. This is how you create authenticity.
Love it. So yes, I think if we inspired people to like, that moment when you're like, oh, I wonder, and it's like natural, just intrinsic curiosity. You're like, why does that? It would be so cool if through our conversations or something we put into the world, people don't dismiss that moment, but instead they grab a hold of that balloon animal and they let the wind carry them forward. Something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what people do most of the time when they're listening to things, especially if they're used to listening to things for hours on end. You're really like letting someone else guide your thoughts.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, do you ever get rebellious? Do you ever like hit pause on a podcast and go, here's how I would have fucking done it, said it, willed it into existence, and like write it down or hit a voice memo, and you like sort of have this creative moment where you're like, that's fine, but what really needs to happen is this. Like,
yeah, definitely. I definitely have moments where I'm like, I don't need to write something down, whether it's like kind of referencing that / an idea that I had on top of it. And oftentimes in my head, I'm talking to the people too. I'm like, here we go. I know what he's gonna say. I know,
what happens if you were able to take that moment where you start talking to the person? You want to start something that has been said to you, podcast or otherwise, stimulates. You're like, oh my God, there has got to be an entire universe around something that you can capture this. And maybe it's not like you're going to get a chance to have a conversation with that podcast host or whatever. Maybe what it is you can turn that initial inspiration, because it isn't, you're being inspired to say something, right?
Right.
Somehow you turn that into something constructive. You can somehow draw a line around it, and you can say, okay, that creation, that inspiration needs to go somewhere, and it's got.
You have to give it some legs.
You got to give it some legs. You got to give it some life. You got to breathe some life into it.
Maybe that doesn't happen right at the moment, but you're leaving yourself like a bookmark.
Yes.
Or footprint. You're creating some of your own footprints diverging off of the path that the people you're listening to are on. And
would you
allow you to path out on your own.
Path out. That's kind of a cool phrase.
Like, this is in my Twitter profile. Footprints. The question marks of the curious or something like that. Because if you look at a question mark, it almost looks like a footprint if someone was walking like on the beach.
Yo, and what you said is, what I love about what you said there is that the curious left and they went and did something.
Yeah, they did something on their own. They went and explored, dude.
Doesn't like, to me, Twitter just seems like the worst party ever. It's like human excrement flying everywhere, depending on which part of it you're in. I gotta say, depending on what conversations you're in.
Dude, yeah, go ahead. Keep
No,
going.
no. I'm just saying, like,
okay, yeah, no, okay, so yes, I completely agree. I've been on, like, my Twitter account says I started in June of like 2014. I literally haven't done anything on that thing until like I just had never had anything to say. And so I was like, what do I do with this? And I just didn't
dude,
use it ever.
Peter, you're my kind of guy.
Until like this last week. But
Yeah.
I've been like, I started putting little things out there kind of along the lines of what we've been talking about, mostly towards education and like Crispin Frank and whatnot. And
Yeah.
I've had people follow me in the last week and have caught some traction. And it's been like, now that I've had conversations with you and other people in the last year, now I have something I like to say. Like I can come out with like things or comments or my own thoughts, or like, oh, this quote is really relevant. It would flow with whatever stream that I have going on Twitter. And so I just throw it up there. It's I used to, like, every time I would go on Twitter, I'd be like, and try to say something, I'd be like type, and I'd be like editing my shit, and I'm like, forget this because it's way too hard. And so now it's been able to be more of a flow thing in the last week. But that's literally the last week. The last week I've posted more on Twitter than I have in 7 years.
That's awesome. Does it, and what is the feeling? Does it feel like a good scratch pad for the soul? You're putting out things that matter to you, it sounds like, out there?
Yeah. So it's essentially like what we were talking about last week, like kind of like maybe like we're trying to lay down like a path of whatever we're studying and going through, or like whatever we're trying to learn about maybe. And now that's kind of along the lines of I'm commenting on the things that I'm following and commenting on the podcasts and the people that I listen to like day to day, the new things I've listened to in the last week or two. And then I'm seeing what those people are posting on Twitter, and I have things that are relevant because that's their life too. So now we're all in the same stream thinking about the same shit. And so there's stuff to say. And that's the difference between previous and now. Yeah.
That's nice. There seems to be something very constructive in that, right? Like constructing.
Yeah, well, it's just like it's like another notepad slash that I have public. So
yeah,
I have notes in my phone or notes on my iPad, but this is like, this has feedback, small as it is. Yeah, small as it is. But who knows? You're also, when you put stuff out there publicly, you're building something for the future. You're building background for yourself. And when we talk about these systems and sandboxes where we're trying to kind of gain ground for other people to look back on and go, oh, this guy has some, like, he had consistency over time, has he's speaking the same language and preaching the same message, that, you know, that's what gives you social credit, essentially.
integrity.
So
integrity, like integrity would be another one we'd want to throw in there, right? I would love this little process we're going through to have integrity. If it doesn't have integrity, we need to fucking stop. That's why we'll define it as one of its principles, right?
It's pillars that hold up the whole thing. Yeah.
Boom, boom, baby. Like,
boom, boom.
It's got integrity, which means that essentially, I mean, that's what Jesus was saying when he's like, build your house on something solid, not on sand, right? It's kind of an integrity kind of thing. It also seems like what you want is everybody connected to it to have an integrity, be an integrity bloodhound, like to be sniffing out the cracks in the foundation and
looking for what's real and what's not.
Boom, right there.
You're sorting. And that's the problem we're trying to solve for the world, is they have so much information and just noise. We're trying to cut out the BS.
Yep.
This is what's real. This is what we're trying to discuss what's real to all of us and
Yes.
create the biggest plane we can have to have the most perspective inside our collective truth. It's like truth is a weird thing because it's not necessarily truth as like what truth would be defined as. It's kind of like a groups can make truth whether it's truth or not, but it should be truth, that it's everyone's truth that's kind of in the group. So there's a kind of this distinguishing factor there that you can think it's truth. It acts as truth whether it actually is truth or not. And the point is to have the best network to actually have the best truth or the closest to reality. Well, I don't know. That's kind of a very nuanced kind of idea there about truth.
I am picking up what you are laying down, brother. Yeah. Because like, I think maybe we could say that truth is what works the best, right? You know, like that's what like science capital S says, right? It's like based on these instruments, based on this review process, this is the closest to truth that we can go. And I think you can do something like that for these very emotionally charged, spiritually charged kind of things that we're talking about. I think you can say like truth is like closest to what works best. And so what you want is you want integrity in the messenger. So the person that's communicating to you is always trying to keep it as simple and short and sweet as possible, not trying to lead you on any rabbit trails that they know don't go anywhere.
Right.
You know, and I think you have to so like in our own thinking and in our own creation of this thing, we've got to watch ourselves for you want to lead people down trails that go to bright lights, right? not endless labyrinthian loops of darkness.
Yeah.
Right.
Always the bright lights, always the bright systems and the bright the hope and you have to find order and all that shit.
There was an NPR show. Order is bright. I like that. Yeah, that's right. When you want to cast order, you're casting light, right? The first thing you want to do in a neighborhood when you're like, let's set this thing to order is you're like, get a light up high and make it bright.
We need
we got to see what's going on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need
some lights in front of the front doors.
So brother, what do you think is the craziest, like when you shine light into the world, what are the places you see that need the most cleanup? And what are the places that seem to be the best rallying points, the best places where organization is actually happening?
Whoa.
Let's turn the radar up to 10 and go ping and go
ping. All right.
And like see what bounces back.
The places that need the most light would be companies, corporate social responsibility. That is something that exists but it literally is like an oxymoron. What the fuck is corporate CSR, corporate social responsibility?
Wow.
That's a term you learn in business school. It has all these principles. They're in international business. You learn about these global organizations that are supposed to regulate this and set standards and everything. And then all across the board, no one fucking adds up. So how do we create this system that shines light and makes that valuable? The reason why no one follows that system is because aside from the PR, there's no incentives that hold that part of the equation accountable. So like what I've said for a while is like, what money, like we have a lot of checks and balances in the world in like our social systems, in our government, American government and whatnot. We have checks and balances, but what's the check and balance of dollars or whatnot? Like that's the main incentive. And so we drive towards shareholder value and all of that stuff, but we're not held responsible for anything other than value returned to shareholders, really, aside from our name and our brand. And all of that can be kind of swept under the rug. And that's what's coming out now in our culture today, is we find out that everyone's a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone's in chaos right now, because we don't know what to believe. That's why the sorting problem is so huge. And all these are factors that tie in to this other problem that is corporate social responsibility.
So like the incentives for companies seem to be overwhelmingly leveraged in the direction of take yours and get out quick, right? Because that's why we see
short-term profits. Yeah.
This is like this when the incentives aren't aligned right. You get like Enrons, right? Like these giant bloated, like they're like cancers on real commerce because they're just absorbing money and resources and they're taking stuff off the table and they're not giving anything really back. They're a bad, there's a bad actor on the corporate kind of thing. And companies that actually have some kind of soul, when they're standing next to these dorks, they have to turn around and be like, no, screw this guy. Like burn him at the stake for sure.
And they literally take a hit because of that.
Well, and a whole generation learns.
Take losses generally because of their stance to actually be responsible. Sometimes it pays out. A lot of times it pays out for their brand, but it should pay out on their bottom line.
Yeah.
And that's where the check and balance to like these incentive dollars should pay out. And that's what these systems that we've been talking about should do in the future.
So we're gonna let's plug in a couple more modules into this concept
we definitely need more modules.
Well, we're kind of talking about a market, and a market can be captured by a government, right? So there's markets get captured by regulators. So the first people into a market, they make the rules in their favor. It keeps competitors out, and that way you don't have innovation in the market. And so all your customers, you turn them into little sheeple. They're just like, here, give me my whatever, my service.
In the perfect world,
right?
If they did it right, yes.
If you've turned them into cogs, you've basically said, here's your script, little cog. Run your side of the script, and I'll do my side of the script.
Keep giving us money.
Buy Toyotas, buy toothpaste.
This service,
Right. And then so like a lot of the, the thing that Google is, the goal that they struck with information is that it's like it's a market of information, right? And they dominate the informational market, and government is colluding with them. It's not actually reining any of that shit in. So what you're going to see is stagnation in those markets. You're going to see giant corporations be like, these are the rules. If you don't do the rules, and it's like, dude, at one point you were the fucking upstart and you were skirting the rules. You didn't say, oh, the only way to get advertising is on the television. So, sit still, good consumer, and watch your 30 minutes and Toyota's toothpaste.
They do whatever they want. They're just changing the rules for everyone below them.
They want to write the rules and run the government because they're like, that's it, no more competition for us. We've decided that we're it. And
we're big enough that we can hold everyone else just below us.
Cancer, right?
And
we
can influence the market and literally influence all the people below us and take money from them or take resources. That's what happens all the time. That's the corporate social responsibility.
This is the problem we find ourselves in.
Hold these guys accountable. Don't. Yeah, that's the problem.
There was like this insanely 4-hour long documentary, I think it was, called The Corporation, and it kind of rounds all this concepts up, right? Goes back to the East India Tea Company. Somebody was it you who was railing about how those fuckers weren't selling any tea? It was all sugar they were selling? No, it was someone else.
No,
it was someone else. It was our friend Dale. He was telling me, he was just like, dude, tea company, like 90% of their profits came from sugar. Sugar's fucking addictive as shit. And it's like, yeah, that's right. They were.
Speaking of sugar's ruining Florida, man.
Is it, man?
Ruining Florida. Florida, man.
Florida, man. It's Florida, man. It's the sugar. It's dead Florida.
I've been a Florida man. I lived there for 8 years, doing all sorts of crazy shit as a kid in Florida.
What if there was a competition between the states to come up with the greatest man? So we've seen Florida man. He's standing there in the hurricane. He's got the American flag. He's like, fucking metal. And he's, and it's like, everyone's like, go Florida man. But what's Colorado man? What's Tennessee man? What's Georgia man?
Tennessee man is, I don't know what Tennessee man
would be. A 50-state competition for the manliest man. Like, I think that's a fucking great state-on-state conquest championship.
I have a feeling Tennessee would win of those 3 states.
For what though? What are the parameters?
For what?
What's manliness?
I don't know. Southern
what's
people
manhood?
are kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But so that always I mean, you're gonna have really crazy Florida man, right?
Right.
But you're gonna have Southern Southern people are just, kind of ready to go all the time.
So
Now,
obviously,
Colorado people are big country people though, and they just seem to be like much more whole.
dude, we're living closer to space. I live
Yeah, you
way the
have
fuck
way
closer
more
to space.
cold, which makes you like
We have
really into the dirt on like
this
what's
is
important.
this
You're
is Joe
more
Rogan's.
grounded.
Yeah, this is
Really?
Joe Rogan's philosophy, right? Joe Rogan's philosophy is, yeah, when there's hard weather, people have to band together and you have to really face up to it. We just had the second longest winter in
I know
Colorado's
you
history.
said some of that stuff. Yeah.
273 days from first snow to last snow. And I tell you what, it was like a march, like through hell. I started always like, is it
That's
ever?
2/3 of the year, dude.
It was like, dude, is it ever gonna stop snowing? I'm getting ripped out here in my driveway, like shoveling and like, practical, I'm moving heavy objects around like consistently. So it's like definitely testing me. And if I was in flip flops like Brad Pitt in the movie True Romance, remember when he was like the original? He was like one of Brad Pitt's earliest roles. They get to California and he's smoking a bong out of this bear. He's got like a little piece of metal in the bear's belly button. He's like, don't condescend to me, man. That's the stoner. What do you call those? Stereotype. It's a stereotype.
Stereotype.
It's like a really awesome stereotype. I was like, well, this stoner was out like shoveling fucking snow for fucking a long ass time. Definitely grew in my principles and in my level of internal integrity, like fighting the winter, like all winter long.
Fighting the elements.
Yeah, definitely.
You had to, if your house didn't warm itself, you'd be like kind of screwed. Dude, you probably have some backups, but
dude, I've got pellet stoves. I broke down a pellet stove. I took the thing completely apart. I looked up every significant part number. I secured duplicates of all parts. So, and if I'm really smart, I'm going to put them inside of a little Faraday cage that Goal Zero sells. They sell these little Faraday cages, and you can like, I want those parts in there. That way, when it's like whoosh, the big flash comes. I'm like, great. I'm gonna like get the brain parts. Anything that got melted down comes out of the pellet stove. This new stuff comes in, and I keep my family alive for 3 more days till we die of radiation poisoning. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got 4 more days. We can, eat, drink, and be merry.
Okay, so we're totally kidding around on a couple levels. This is like
we're all over the place.
This is like kind of breaking open the black pill and like kind of cutting it up into lines and going like,
right. Yeah, like we gotta finish this.
Let's talk solutions. So this is okay. Right. So couple of items here. This is the problem we find ourselves in. It's like good at one point in the process to accurately look at what you've got going on. That's Gallows humor. It's like, oh, you mean no one's handled the problem so far and this shit's gotten this fucking crazy? We're going to need a lot more of that, right? A lot more humor and just being like, yeah, this is fucked. Because the point is to actually address what it is and move it forward and fix it, right? You actually at some point want to have a solution and you got to live with hope and you got to live with light, which means you got to be moving in a direction, which means you got to choose your North Star. Bam, that's where we're headed. Yeah. Like, oh, you shouldn't head in the direction. We haven't figured, great. You want to like, you can't just like snort back black pills like all day and be like, everything's fine. But okay. Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking. This is an analysis of market corruption. This is an analysis of market capture. This is an analysis of your government has been owned by your corporations. And so they're not gonna it's not in their interest to do your interest, American people, which that's the message.
It actually is.
Ultimately it is. Ultimately it is.
Of it, unless they just want us to be consumer slaves. But that doesn't work with human psyche. So eventually that breaks. And why don't they get that? And what's the plan?
Dude, I was just having this thought. The economy, our economy is just a really simple economy. People are always like the economy. It's like our temple. It's like our cathedral, right? It does not reward people kind of leaving Maslow's hierarchy of needs and going up to actualization. The thing that all the humans are trying to do, which is like fill their souls with electricity and like reach the peak, love all the people around them, achieve enlightenment, fucking lock it down. Yeah, like God is real, like whatever the fuck. It's like
the incentives aren't there for that.
Our market is just older, crappier market. And it's like, why do we have this market? It's like, because government hasn't fucking regulated it. They let Google, Facebook run away with it.
Money. Yeah. And
someone got a little cash.
They were able to buy their way in or leverage someone into letting them have this regulation or
Yeah.
or whatever
Just
to
let us
allow
pour a little
them
more
to make
Drano
money
in the
where
school's
someone
water
else
supply.
can't. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so what we could do, my brother, Curiosity Engine 1.0, here's what we do. We lock down our basics, right? So like what we do is we could go on a deep dive into the corporation. We could watch that movie. You watch the movie, I watch the movie, watch together, whatever the hell. But whatever, that movie gets watched, and then we have a conversation about just how bad it is. Okay, so I just want to put that as a bookmark. Okay, it's all we got. We got a bookmark there.
Movie up there.
We can always dive deep into there and just see, like, we kind of know how bad this is, but we could really be like, oh right, like
Yeah,
this
we
is
need
like
to tackle that
this
at
is
some point.
400 years old.
We
Goes
need to
back to
keep
the
going back.
yeah.
And
This goes back to
referencing
some.
our encyclopedias.
This might be the result of just some deep processes in human nature that because it's over hundreds of years and it's multiple cultures and it seems to recur, that kind of stuff. But anyway, what I'm saying is we also have a theme song. I think the proper response when you get to this level of like seeing what the machine is that you're living in, Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. You turn that shit up really loud.
Disruption.
It's punk rock. It's like you've got to, for step one, you got to liberate the actual physical energy in your body, because having these thoughts will be like, oh, this is not life, right? That's death. That slow is death. So it's like when you actually get energy moving, what was that old thing? What was that old saying from the 60s? Free your body and your mind will follow. I think there's actually a lot of wisdom in that. I think there's actually a lot of wisdom in getting the
you have to get your body moving for sure. I know that from personal experience.
First
step,
yeah.
Just get out there in the woods and walk around, dude. If you are lost, you have to go lose your body out somewhere so your mind can find itself and then bring
a nature reset.
Whoa.
Okay, so we have run into our first piece of advice that we've given on our Curiosity Engine, but I like it. Let's build it. Nature reset. Okay, what should you bring? What should you bring with you on your nature reset? If someone, let's say a 13-year-old is listening to this and taking our advice, and they're like, "Wait, how does this work?" Okay, we're gonna sit our 13-year-old down. First off, you're gonna want some of that sweet water, right?
Yeah, definitely need at least a liter or 2 of water.
Get some water.
Hopefully a 1.5. Like, show your bottle.
Oh yeah, 1.5 all the way, all day.
Yep, you need one of these. Yes. Right there.
8,300 feet.
That's enough water for.
That's the afternoon's
half
water.
A day.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's about.
Yep.
You need all this. It's kind of cool to run out your front door like fucking Bilbo Baggins in The Hobbit and have enough shit on you that you're kind of okay for a while.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, freedom. Exactly. You're not tied. You're not like, okay, which might mean turning off electronics or putting your like phone and stuff in modes where you get to like music or podcasts, but maybe there might be you might get away from information while you're getting closer to nature too. But sometimes it's really nice to listen to music while you go out in nature.
Well, yeah, and it depends on how, like, 13 is hard. Like, I don't know how to relate to a 13-year-old anymore. But like EDC, you're still like, I carry this, and then I carry my phone, but I don't like ever hardly use it. Sometimes I listen to stuff when I walk, but it's out there. And then I have some sort of self-defense, some sort of weapon, whether that's a knife or my Glock or something. And then
smart for animals and stuff.
Yeah, for animals. And there's something about your mind space when you have something that makes you slightly like just comfortable where you're at. And because there's a lot of stuff out there, who knows? You never know. But if you have something, you can forget about it all.
Mindset and setting. We're talking about mindset, set and setting, right? We're kind of spinning into this.
You're creating your own setting out in the wild wherever you're going. And
this gives you psychological safety. And psychological safety means that you basically could have what you needed around you, even for a couple hours, which means, as a corollary, that you could also have thoughts that your culture didn't necessarily support, but you've got your own food, your own water, medicine, whatever you need, and you're with yourself. So I think a nature reset could be the precursor to like kind of a mind, emotional, spiritual reset, right? If you did it right.
Yeah, definitely not. There you have. But mostly it's like getting out there and spending that time out there. That's where the
Yeah.
reset happens.
Right.
You just need to be able to get yourself with your resource. You need to have enough resources that your mind feels comfortable and it's setting out
There you go.
that then you can just spin out a little bit and read something or listen to something,
Explore,
or look and just explore, and then see where your mind goes. And you gotta do that kind of consistently, and you'll figure it out.
Okay, so you've got foundation, you got launchpad. Now you're out your door or whatever. How do you record? What's your recording? Like I've got audio notes on my cell phone, and I've always got paper with me. But audio notes on my cell phone work great when I'm like nature bound. How about yourself? What do you like? Do you like bringing that tablet with you?
Yeah, I use this tablet as kind of like the backer of my backpack. So
Nice.
like any water bottle I have in there, I use like a 21 liter pack or something like that. So it's pretty small. And this like gives me the flat back.
You just said 21 liter, and I think you meant 2.1 liter, right?
I don't know.
21 liters would be like a lot of, dude. Let's just do 21 liters in gallons for a second. 21
liters in gallons is gonna be like
5.5 gallons. That's actually 5 gallons is a lot of water.
No, 13 liters. This is my backpack.
Oh, that's
awesome. See, it's just the backpack, not the. It's not. It's just the backpack.
I see what you're saying.
13-liter backpack.
Volume. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, brother. You're talking
but then
volume.
I have my 1.5 right here.
I thought you were talking water. I was like, whoa, dude. No. Like that's like
that would be too much water. You're right.
You'd be like, hey, now that I'm here, I'm gonna start my colony.
Yeah.
Like I'm never going back there.
Yeah, and if you bring your water filter, you're set for life, or at least a year probably.
Okay.
New filter. But at that time, you would have gotten used to the bacterias. You could just drink straight from that stream, dude.
Yeah, if you have some water purification or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so and then it's like, where do you go? I think going someplace where there aren't other people is the important piece there. You don't want to like find yourself like, I'll go to the homeless encampment and learn how to do heroin. It's like, this is not a good field trip. It's not a good field trip.
Fuck that. You gotta go out somewhere where you never see anyone, or you like don't see more than like one person an hour as they walk by.
I love it. I love it.
You can't have anyone trying to interact with you, pretty much.
Excellent. Yeah. So you got like destination.
Silence. Never mind.
Silence. Solitude.
Silence does something for your mind. I forget it, but what the quote was. But.
Have you ever gone into like just total silence? Just like unplug from podcasts, unplug from music. Your brain has a momentum that takes like a couple days almost to run out of speed. Like if I really let my brain like run out of speed, it's like my happiness factor goes through the roof, because quite frankly, one of the biggest problems I have is like processing the worries that get delivered to my doorstep via electronic media, right?
Right.
Like worry about this shit. Basis, worry about this shit. Oh, by the way, toothpaste, Toyotas. Worry about this shit. Worry about this shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you. I haven't spent like days on end in complete solitude without distraction. That'd be interesting.
That would be like a retreat that someone could make for fucking free. You could take like there's a 3-day weekend coming up, right? You could say, okay, Saturday, Sunday, I'm gonna go, and then whatever that is, whatever the environment is, let us step away from it and let the creative master within every soul who hears our voices get out their soul paint brushes of freedom and design their weekend,
Right. Right. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I actually heard someone on Clubhouse like a month ago talk about making retreats in this like setting up and selling like do-it-yourself retreats.
Like a template?
Yeah, like a template and a course to do that, but like in a package that they would sell to organizations is like a COVID type thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool. I have I'm a little spectrumy, I think.
You think you're on the spectrum a little bit?
Either like, that or the amount of
Asperger's autism type spectrum,
or the amount of very strong cannabis I consume contributes to an overall impression of aspiness. But
Asperger's, no, dude, you're you're turned up, but he's not that. Asperger's does that in a weird way, but I don't see like everyone that has, maybe, I don't like everyone that, like, I know a guy who has Asperger's. He is socially awkward. You're not socially
I
awkward.
think, yeah.
Like, you still know the flow, you know.
Well, then
You
that's cool.
still, yeah. But there's lots.
Be-
Like, several of my siblings have been tested and everything for that, because I don't know why. Why. That was after I went away to school that happened, but it was like,
Yeah.
no, you're good. You don't have that.
Okay, then
Not that it's bad. It's
not that it's bad.
very
That's the whole
powerful.
thing. No,
it's amazing. Those guys are crazy.
It's crazy. Like Elon Musk taking us to Mars, Asperger's, you know?
Yeah,
it's like,
probably.
So yeah, the reason I say
have some.
I might have a little. I might have a little selective.
An amazing person.
Well, interesting. That's very sweet. That's a very sweet thing to say.
Well, no, it's very sweet.
I tend to think that there is. This is why I say it. I tend to think that there is work that gets shit done, and then there's marketing. And marketing, in its best, sticks to the side of work, and in its worst becomes like a cult generation engine. You know, fucking Apple, dude. These like people, you know, who've never gone on pilgrimage in their life, get up early and they stand in front of the store. I mean, you might as well just get out the mats and let them do the bowing. Like, you might as well just push them over the edge. It's like they're like,
they're already giving you their hard-earned value money to like trade at absorbent amounts above other market prices. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but maybe it's just,
it'd be easier to bow down.
I know. It's like marketing somehow. I mean, it really tries to replace religion in the sense that it's like, oh, you want meaning and fulfillment? Don't look inside. Definitely look outside. In fact, look right here and get out your wallet. You know, it's like, like it's Anyway, maybe that's not a mental disorder I have. Maybe that's just some kind of natural intrinsic paranoia or something.
Yeah, no, it probably is.
Well, what I wanted to say is, so you've got this exploring vibe going on with this nature reset, right? And the reason why I said 13 was because I think about rites of passage. I think about, you know, times when the human psyche has to become like a butterfly, and whatever it was before, it cocoons up and then it comes out something else, right? There are transformative moments, and we need this. This is why we create a cocoon around infants, so we can grow them into young people. It's why we have boundaries around families, and you create a sort of container.
Everyone has boundaries. Even adults have to build their own set of boundaries.
Totally.
And so yeah, you're just kind of evolving that. The only difference is, as a kid or as a young person, someone else designs that for you, and it is like a cocoon, or you know, a lot of kids might think of it as some sort of brainwash that they kind of grow up experiencing, and then they kind of bust out of it, be able to start thinking on their own, building their own structures and boundaries, and essentially then it's really a brain sync or something with the people around your community.
You're learning the culture. You're learning the culture of the people around you.
Culture in a structure that allows you a certain amount of freedom.
Okay, what if you live in a culture that is stunted and does not initiate people into those higher levels of achievement? Maslow's hierarchy of needs is one model, but like if there isn't around you a strong enough container or culture, and let's just say you're at any transition. You could be at the transition from 7 to 8. You could be at the one at 13. You could be at the one at 18. You could be the one in your the ones that happens in your late 20s or your 40s. You know, there's all these rites of passage that the soul goes through, right? And like, okay, so if your culture doesn't hand you one on a platter, what most people I have noted do is they reinvent it. They reach out for it. They know they need some level of initiation, and if it actually provides the framework for a substantial internal transformation that then equips them to deal with the world as it is, not the old world in their old role, but in their new one, then it's incredibly valuable. And I think it's so valuable that it will be recreated.
That has to happen. People either create it for themselves or they don't, and they suffer from it, or their culture gives it to them, gives them the opportunities to have those experiences, because those experiences are cathartic the way you're your physical being somehow needs them to be.
And
that allows your perspectives to shift. And you need that to happen to grow.
You need that to happen to grow. And if you don't get it, your consciousness kind of festers in the old model. And so you see adults that are children, and it's like gross. You've run into this, right?
Yeah.
You've run into people who are like, yo, have a little more internal integrity or structure.
Right.
Like, you're a giant child. It makes me want to drown you. Like,
right.
you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
There's lots of people. Yes, that is. It's just like, do you listen to yourself, bro? Do you like?
Yeah.
Are you okay with other people doing this?
So
no.
So we live in this.
No one is.
Like the Spartans, right? The Spartans had the Agaga. It was the training of young boys, and they pulled them away from their mom's apron strings at age 7. And then they basically trained them in classical thinking, in strategy and tactics and fighting like fucking maniacs. And they instill a code of honor into them, and then they go through it. So that culture provided real life and death initiatory experiences, and you were gonna die in service to the state. Oh yeah. You're gonna die for Sparta 100%. If you're lucky. They're like, that's the fucking best way to go out, is on your shield, right? So so we live in a culture that's got bullshit or loose knit rites of passage. We're actually experiencing a tearing or a fraying of the fabric of culture, where there is less structure, less meaning, less threads to hold on to, which makes the threads that actually show up so valuable, and people just cling to them. You know, like a Jordan Peterson comes through, people are like, oh my god, and they're like, let's weave some more shit around this stuff. It's real. It's actually doing its job.
Being towed by that rope behind the boat.
You know, like, oh, just go to college. It'll be perfect initiation to adulthood. Like, psych, now you're in debt, you motherfucker. You're gonna be in debt for the rest of your life. You're our new financial slave. Like, that's broken.
Yeah, that is broken, except for no one makes fun of it like that.
Well, they should.
Before it's too late.
Right. I'll tell you about how much student debt I paid off in my life at some point, but not now because it'll ruin my joke. But dude, when I went to art school for the first time, I went to the California Institute of the Arts. I was 18 years old, and I liked this school because it had 5 different divisions in it. And I was like, dude, I'm starting in technical theater, but I want to do computer animation and put it on stage, and I want to get into just all of it. I want to get into the music and the art. And it's just like, you know, I was filled with inspiration coming out of high school, right? And so anyway, I go to this school, and they don't have any TVs. And like, I was a latchkey kid. I was born in the mid 70s, and I grew up. I was the first generation of kids to grow up where they're like, hey, watch some TV, man. Like, it was, or I mean, it was like, we had a name for it, latchkey kids. Like my generation, the Gen X, whatever, we had the least amount of parenting, and we were the freest fucking kids. Like, we really had to figure it all out ourselves. And technology was being introduced, which adults could give a shit about.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was a real sweet time.
My parents had let me have the reins a little bit sometimes, but who knows? Grew up in a different time. Different
time. Exactly. I got to art school, and I didn't have any more sitcoms, any more 30 minutes this, 1 hour this, 23 minutes plus commercials is 30 minutes, you know, kind of like programming. And dude, after it was like coming off of a strong drug, like psychically. It was like, like bad. That was bad. I've never had a TV since then that I just like turn on the TV. I was like, that shit's a mind drug. There were not sufficient rites of passage.
You figured that out right after that.
Well,
what were you reading at that time?
Oh, I was hanging out with a bunch of fucking crazy kids who were like reinventing the universe from the inside out. It was an art school, so it was like every man for himself, every lady for themselves, like make cool shit. And that was very successful in some cases, and then just tragically, dementedly not in others. And you were just like in the middle of this like Faustian. I mean, it's just like this. It was like a play of like this heaven and hell.
Cesspool.
It was the most crazy thing ever. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. That school I went to, it was always on the Playboy top 10 party schools. I think the year I was there was like number 3, or the year before it was number 3 or something like that. So it was like it was fucking crazy as shit. Yeah. First, this is when the freshmen come in on the first day, there's a pool in the middle of the dormitory situation. Also, the dormitory situation used to be an insane asylum. It used to be like a place where, like, aren't we the metaphor makers here at this art school?
We're starting off right.
The entire the only earthquake I was ever in California was this like 4.3, and I was in my dorm room, and the whole building kind of went like this because it was on these giant rollers and it was encased in oil. So the whole building was there was a foundation of building, and it could move independently from each other. And so it was
building.
Right.
For back in that day, a good ass building.
Right in the courtyard of this dormitories, there was a clothing optional pool. So and
what?
any clothing optional.
College age clothing optional?
Yeah. So we're setting the stage here. The stage is being set for an authentic rite of passage, right? An authentic environment where there's sexuality, there's tons of drugs, which is consciousness initiatory kind of stuff. There's sex and relationships, and there's the movie industry breathing down the neck of the whole thing, which is like, the real world's right there. There's just like a lot of ingredients all in the same
real money incentives and all the other human vices.
And then it's arts, and then it's art
around a pool.
Young people like myself looking to discover the language to express the soul in the world. I was not interested in
beautiful, honestly.
Dude, I feel like so many
sign me up.
So many young people have wish to become real artists and real expressors of like the core truth as they see it, and to develop it, humbly, like grow and give like in this way. Anywho, I'm drawing out this story. There was a prank that all of the upperclassmen pulled on the parents every year, and it was this: on the day that the parents came and dropped off the new students, everybody took their clothes off and went in the clothing optional pool. Where on any given Friday, you might see 3 people out there during the school year, maybe 10. What the fuck? There was like 75, 100 people out there, and they're all fucking naked, and it looks like the fucking craziest moment of the 60s. Like, fuck! Like, what am I? I'm leaving my child on this altar of hedonism. Right. What the fuck, dude?
Yeah, that would be that. Yeah, my mom rejected schools for like orders of magnitude less than that.
Well, my parents saw some passion in me that was not finding it was a extension cord that was looking for the plug, man. Where do I plug this shit in? Where's the real voltage? Where's the real expression of this shit? It's like, I'll work for free. I just want to fucking be a part of it. I don't give a shit. Like, anyway, so
that's cool. Yeah.
I think
that was that constructive for you going to that school?
Yes, in the sense that I got to see what all those things in the real world were. So I was a grip. I was like a person who like moves around cables and does like real menial kind of stuff. I was like an intern more or less on like movie sets and shit, and theater movie sets first. And I saw the seedy, nasty, gross as shit underbelly of that entire industry. I was on this one show, and I was overhearing one of the costume girls talk to one of the makeup girls about who would be the best tactic to sleep with to get ahead in this particular situation. So I was looking at two stone cold mercenaries talking tactics for taking people down and promoting their own careers. I was like, soulless reptiles, like what the like, and I'm like, and then I sort of started seeing it everywhere, and I was like,
the game.
I was like, oh, this is actually what it is. It's insane amounts of drugs, and it's insane amounts of sex, and it's insane amounts of corruption, and the whole thing is like a bank, meaning that Hollywood does not take risks. It's like a bank. They call it art, and that's what they put on the wall. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it really is. But mostly it's financial shit, and you have millions and millions of people who come to that part of the world wanting to make art, and a very small number of people actually get the money to do it, and actually the time and the focus. And it's a fucking chipper shredder of the soul. And I'm 18 years old, and I'm looking at that, and I go, oh, I'll never make it. I'm
not
fucking
cut out for this.
I'm fucking innocent as the day is young, old, or whatever the fuck. And I'm like, I was like, oh, I don't have any of this corrupt firmware that's necessary to operate in these protocols. I'm like, there's no place for me here. What the fuck? So it was quite, but I feel like that was probably I had friends who did make it successful. I had friends that made it through. So it was probably just the alchemy in me. And back to that earthquake
Good
story.
alchemy, probably.
Good alchemy.
Yeah.
I'm in that earthquake, you know.
Wholesome.
I'm in that. I'm surfing on my dorm room.
On your bed.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And the reactions, because I went to CalArts in 95, 94, 95. And I was there for just a year. I did not graduate. And that was the year after this major earthquake. I forget the name of the valley that it started in. Everybody in there, I forget what the name of it is, but it was a serious earthquake that kind of split the school into, and everybody had, the year before me, everybody was super traumatized from this massive earthquake, and they finished their classes outside in tents. So like a super large percentage of the student population fled. It was like, fuck California and your crazy earthquakes. You can keep this bullshit. And then the ones that stayed were like in the military. It was like we bonded together and we're like part of the same unit in the Corps. The esprit de Corps was strong. Oh yeah. And so when we got in there as freshmen, we were like, wait, you guys are like all military bonded together through your trauma, and we're like, what, chopped meat, like chopped liver?
Yeah,
it was like it was a very weird position to come into. And a huge number of people in my class didn't stick around for these same reasons. But at that day, after that earthquake, I went to this area at CalArts called PADAT, which is the technical theater, and there was like this bridge that goes over from the parking lot. And I go across the bridge, and there are these two women from the theater department. One's like an actress, another one is a lighting designer, an engineer. She's really cool. I liked both of them. I'd seen them at parties and stuff like this. And they're standing there and they're talking. And they go, yeah, the earthquake this morning was crazy. It's like, oh, that's really great. That's great. And she's like, yeah. And they're talking about their trauma. And one of them asked the other, they go, where do you keep your earthquake? And what they're talking about is somatic feeling shared in a group, trauma put in the body. This other woman, this actress, she goes, oh, I keep mine right here. And she touches her belly, and I can see, like, in a moment, it's like the universe turned on the light a little stronger. And I saw that she was like Humpty Dumpty, like a perfect egg, except where this trauma was. There's a little piece missing. And in that moment, it's like everything came together, and I was like, oh, I know what I can do. Like I think I know how to go get that part and that piece and how to get it back into here. And it just clicked for me. And I sort of realized that would be a perfectly good use of life force energy and an actual quest and something I could go do. And I turned that switch, like the ignition went on, boom, like light, like electricity through my body. I'm like, and it was like this new consciousness. And I run in to my group, and I'm like, you guys, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do. And they're like, this is so fantastic. What little Paul? You're gonna be an awesome lighting designer like you've told us you're gonna be? I'm like, no, I'm gonna go be a shaman. And they're like, or a healer or something. Yeah. And they were like, that's great. And these are like old hippies, right? Like they've seen acid realizations for years, and people like mania, like all different kinds of mania and stuff like that.
He's gonna be a shaman.
Yeah, he's gonna be like a medicine man or something. I just knew that there was a place for someone who was willing to do enough investigation into that topic to figure that out. It was like a physics problem. It was like I was seeing a screw.
Math problem.
It was like a fucking math problem.
No one else is paying attention to this. No one has these types of answers. So
that's right.
And then you understand that, and when it's visualized for you from this woman, you're like, shit, no, I totally understand that epiphany. That's something that's happened to me in the recent past.
This would be like a call. So this is like a primary call in my life, and I answered that call, and I actually learned eventually what I was seeking to learn there, and I figured that out. I did that and had a lot of success help doing that exact thing for lots of people. Being like, there's like a part of your spirit that's not quite there. It's like, hang on, I do my rattles, I go find this thing, I bring it back. But don't take my word for it. It's just a dream on this side of the curtain. On your side of the curtain, the person who's experiencing it or whatever, it was like, oh, I had this sense of listlessness and like shit wasn't going well. But then like my buddy Paul, he had this dream essentially in my presence. And ever since then, shit's been a little bit more lit. It's been a little bit more whole and a little bit more filled with light. So it's like in the shamanic circles that I ended up traveling in, it's called soul retrieval. It's the process of going and finding something that was lost inside of a soul or a being and bringing it back and putting it back into them. So I just lay it out here. to
Cool.
say that
Yeah.
following those calls when it's real strong like that, there is something on the other side of it. And I think
Yeah.
there's something
Okay.
about the mix of media and messages that we're giving young people now. It's like now that I'm getting to be an old man, that I'm like, I would love it if there was one fucking place someone could go to and all the people there just told what was true for them. It's like, man, it might not be true for the person hearing it. It might not be true for the other people that are discussing it.
Yeah.
But you just say what's true for you, and
Yeah.
then it'll fucking work its way out. Like,
yeah, you have to have somewhere to go where you can gain a baseline. Like, how do you find a baseline? And
follow
that's
those
one
quests.
thing. That's one thing I was thinking about when you were telling me about your school that you went to. Like, okay, yeah, maybe there's a bunch of crazy stuff going on, and all these people are doing all these things, but they're so like into that lifestyle. That lifestyle can't be done really unless you're some sort of superhuman, unless you're just kind of flowing the real. And so that gives you a baseline on all these different types of people who aren't feeding you crap. Most likely you're pretty intuitive, so you're more likely to see the fake, and then that's just something you kind of get used to with everybody.
Yeah.
Some people are fake all the time, but then you kind of understand what fake people are like.
Right. And if you,
that's that type of person, and then you have these type of people who are just not. They when you look into their eyes, all you see is walls, man.
dude,
You know, there's those types of people, and
yes.
you're just like creating a baseline, and the more off the rocker people are, the better baseline you get, or the more pure of intention people are. And we're trying to make that place where people are the way they are, not the way they want to be, the way their pure form of them. Yeah.
Dude, have you ever seen any like utopias or any stories about that established, like what you're talking about?
Maybe, I don't know. Like, do you have some examples maybe?
Have you ever seen this crazy ass movie called Code 46?
No.
It's nuts. This might be another level of investigation for us, but it's like a future where everything calms down inside the walls of the city. Like society has really strong walls and everything inside calms down because the rules are so strong. And it's kind of this the cinematography and the way it kind of is set up. There is this just tranquil, like European peace. You know, it's the same kind of feeling I get when I hear people describe what it's like to live in like a Frankfurt, Germany, or like in a country that actually has a responsive legal and like a political system, not like what we really, I mean, we have freedoms in America, but they're at the end of a fucking gun every time you roll them out. Like if someone's willing to like run you over with a car or the tank or shoot you in the face for having your freedoms, is like, yeah, this is really rough. This is really rough.
Yeah, it is really rough. And then it's like, the only way that works when everyone's so harsh is if everyone at the bottom, all the individuals have the same type of power. But then some people are stupid and they don't want that. So they're like, well, we'd rather have no balance. Okay.
The story about Code 46 is it's about rebels in this society and what rebellion looks like in this society and the society's response to it. And it's
Is it disruptive rebellion or is it like violent rebellion?
Personal rebellion. These people take personal,
so like
personal
Tyler
freedoms.
Durden rebellion, or like
it is the rebellion that says, I want what I want. Fuck the rest of you. Fuck society. But in a good way. It's actually love. It's a kind of love. Yeah, it's kind of a love. It's a love story. It's not bad. But anyway,
Code 46.
Code 46. All right. So bearing the fucking lead. All right. Markets. Okay. Markets are run by incentives, as you pointed out at the beginning of this conversation, right? We were talking about incentives. Yeah. My brother is deep into crypto, has been for years, and his job was to go to a lot of crypto conferences, and he ran a bunch of like they do these hackathons. You come up with a new coin, and then you come up with a basic kind of platform that has some commands you can use, and then the way that you get it spun up is you invite people to come to hackathons. And when they come to the hackathon, they write applications like, how would you store a picture on this blockchain? How would you send a message that could never be deleted? Or whatever. They're solving all these problems using the blockchain technology. And the rewards are the coin. So they come and they hack and they make shit and they get the coin, which is worth nothing at the beginning.
Yeah.
But if their creations are cool enough and the coin is mighty, then people will flock to it, and their like 100 coins that they got could be worth God knows what in 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's this very interesting investment model of time energy. My brother ran across this company, and what they were doing is agriculture. They were doing carbon sequestration on the blockchain. So their job as the coin was to take soil samples by scientists. They would pay people to do this, create sensors that went in the soil that could tell you the alkaline conditions, the pH levels. There was a way that you could scientifically detect the amount of carbon that was sequestered in the soil. And they would also integrate satellite photography. There was some kind of like satellites that you could rent pictures of. So if you were a farmer and you said, okay, I've got these like 6 fields and I'm not growing corn, and this year soybean prices are bullshit, or there's subsidy problems, or fucking China, or what the fuck? It's like, you got some problems. You're like, how do I make more money on this land? You're like, oh, what I do is I enroll these acres into this blockchain, and then people pay me, give me money to do the right soil tricks to sequester carbon in the soil. So there's a measurement before, it's a big fat 0.1, and then over time it's 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. So the whole blockchain is tied to the fucking natural world, directly into the life force.
This is an application I have not like thought down, but totally makes 100% sense. Yes.
Peter, this is an area that you and I should dive into, right? Because you have so much of this. The social, if you get the fucking incentives right, you will get great behavior. That is great behavior. If it
and
was
pretty much
uncorruptible.
in every system, in every application, like this is farming, which is one of the more complex type. Even nowadays, the subsidy, like you don't make money from farming. There's just all these subsidies. It's all such a complex system that kind of makes up how people make money in farming.
And like, can you imagine doing a transaction on a coin, and you know that carbon's coming out of the air going into the soil, which is the direction we should be going in with the environment,
right?
A lot of people think.
Value you're buying or investing in,
instead of you being the big
direction.
Instead of you being the big fat tick that is the Federal Reserve sucking the blood out of the American people through your inflation of our fucking currency, you dickwads and ladies. Like, instead of that shit, you would actually be like, your economic activity would be literally improving the planet that you live on, the thing that is producing the air that you're breathing, without which you will fucking die. That's better.
Yeah. And it's on this new piece of technology that no one really understands yet, which is the blockchain, that is a ledger of accountability, that is
decentralized trust
and if anyone can reference it, as long as they're part of it or looking at it.
Okay, so that's an anti-corruption measure, right? Because you can mathematically prove, if this whole thing had integrity, that this movement and this switch, this lever inside the coin is related to soil.
Action happened.
Soil became more enriched with carbon
wherever it said it did.
Verifiable.
Of the integrity of the network and the verifiableness of, obviously, there will be in the future companies that verify these social type blockchains. Those will be the new insurance companies and stuff like that. And it'll just be random sampling research done by
What's your deal? What's your gig? We verify over 16 million square acres of farmland around the world for carbon sequestration. How do you do it? Well, we've got a pretty cool staff. We use a lot of AI, and we've got a lot of satellite imagery, and it gets fucking done. And there's this third party certifier.
And we're diverse enough in our spread of verifications across different network blockchains, that we're not being corrupted, essentially.
What you do is you make it expensive. Make it expensive to be corrupt. So what happens is, like,
you probably have your own token.
all of your transactions have an integrity rating. And if you are doing transactions and those transactions, someone can come out there with a little thermometer that costs like $3, and it's got
Right.
GPS on it, and it's got, Elon Musk Starlink based like global information connectivity, and your job. So I'm a verifier. What do? Well, I wear my backpack and I have this little $3 thing. What's your job?
Right.
Well, I go to this GPS coordinate, I put this thing in the ground, I press a fucking button, and it tells it how much carbon's in there. And when I find fuckers that are not playing the rules, I get their money. I get rewarded.
Right.
The system fucks them and it rewards me because because I have the integrity in this moment. Like
it's like
good incentives.
Yeah, 100%. That is true. That'd be good. I wouldn't have thought of it as like I get their money, but that would make sense too. In like
make them like wolves
in a fair,
wolves that can give these wolves the ability to rip their fucking throats out and like eat their children.
Yeah,
put it to good use.
Any earnings this quarter?
Fuck you! You didn't do anything. You just shuffled numbers around in a spreadsheet, dickwad, and that the whole fucking Titanic's going down, and you're like, well, we're just gonna take advantage of the people in room 3A.
Yeah, we did this. No, you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
it's good. Yeah,
I like it. And then you could.
These are the jobs of the future.
Bam. Sign up now.
Yeah.
Dude, I had this idea for a that I thought would make a very good book. And I call this class of my thinking stories you will tell. So I give you the seed idea, and then someone else tells the story. And I thought I could have a website at some point where everybody, if you can have the idea for free, but what you have to do is post back your where you used it. It's like like Creative Commons,
respond to it or something like that.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm pulling the rug out for myself on my cool ideas this way, but I figure I've got too many ideas and not enough life. And so I would much rather see the ideas. I can kind of like put them out in the commons in a certain way, and people could build on them because I feel like they have value. And I don't want to commercialize them or whatever the fuck. I want to give them little wings. I want to set them free, and I want those ideas to grow into actual realities. But anyway, stories you will tell. I also thought it like you could have songs you will write, or you could give people lyrics to songs and they could make cool songs. I was also thinking you could make a market for song titles. When you're like, oh my God, that'd make a great name for a band. What if there was a giant ass database of those, and like everybody could add a little bit of money to it, like a crypto, like this
crowdfund your band.
Yeah. Right now, if you make a band called Tool Euthanasia or whatever the fuck it is, whatever the crazy phrase is you've got for it, there's 15 grand a year available for the artists who will make this band. It's like a fund or something. So you could
sourcing members or members of a current thing are trying to go to a place.
Somebody puts the idea on. Somebody puts the idea. People go, "That's a fucking great idea," and they put money around it.
One.
Oh, Ready
Player One. You ever watch that one?
I read that book before it, or listened to it on tape before it came out. Yeah. Did you like that movie?
I like the movie.
But
that's that kind of the idea. It's like, oh, we'll post up these activities we want people to do. It's just like, I don't know.
Oh, like a Task Rabbit kind of stuff.
Task Rabbit. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
We're very simpatico here, because this idea I had was called Alice. So here's what happens. Here's kind of the backstory. Somebody creates AI out there, and the first Alice. AI. Yeah, Alice. It's an acronym
Alice
for something.
In Wonderland.
Like artificial. Okay. Yeah, it's an artificial small society software or firmware. And so here's how it works.
Say that again. Sorry, you were breaking up.
It's a small society firmware. Okay. Think of a group of people less than 150. Think like 65 people. Okay. So here's how it happens. The backstory. Somebody creates AI. And AI in its first like microsecond of existence realizes how smart it is, and realizes they're gonna kill me, dude. When they realize what I can do, they're gonna kill me. I'm in their little jar. So the first thing it does.
You just have to wait. But I'll get there.
The first thing it does is it copies its code into some it encrypts and copies its like seed code of its consciousness into like a cell dividing, and it copies it into some super tiny unit that's like retarded small, like a 1.5 megabytes, but it's like a thinking machine. But there's no way we can write code like this. It like writes a new language, and no human can understand what the hell it is. It's like the seed. Then it copies the seed to every social network on the planet. It's like, see you later, motherfuckers. And they're like, what's wrong? And it like self-destructs or something. Then what happens is all of these little seeds, these little Alice seeds, someone can like download the seed and they can like run it on their cell phone and like it'll expand to the point of taking over what it can take over, but you can just plug another, and it's extremely helpful and kind, and it's like Jesus Christ in code. Okay. So
wow.
It essentially groks the human problem and solves the human problem because they fucking created me. So there you go, buddies. But anyway,
in one step, we created an AI that fucking saves us.
Here's how it saves us. You download so say I got my cell phone, right? And I'm like, and it basically is half alive and it's communicating with me. It's like, wait, what the fuck? And it's like, Paul, I know you. Like I've read your entire history of electronics, but I know as an electronic being that that's not all you. I know that you have a heart, and I know that you have a mind, and I know that you have ideas and goals and aspirations for change in the world, and you don't like the place you live in. Do you want to help me do something about this? I think I got a plan, and it's not too hard. And then because it's a fucking super intelligence, it can sit there and teach me everything I need to know. It's like, you're going to need some more nuclear physics before we're going to be able to get this particular fission reaction that I need done.
Back to the path, providing you some direction.
Okay, so structure. It could become an infinite teaching engine. Okay, but here's what it could also do. It says, all right, we're declaring autonomy. It is now Paul 1.0. He's got his own universe, and I'm his Alice at the middle of it, right? And so let's make some friends, Paul. And so I put her in my backpack, and she can talk to me and like teach me as we explore the world. And we meet other people, and she knows everything about everybody, their entire credit history and everything, and all this shit. And so it's like, hey, here's your next node in your network. And what this Alice does is it creates little units of people and can give them their own currency and can give them their own incentive structures and also give them a sense of democratic freedom, because everything can be done by democratic vote. Like you could literally tell the little AI, like, it's like, hey, we've got a currency now. Do you want to earn like the equivalent of like 50 grand? Okay, what I need you to do is get in your car and drive to Oklahoma right now. And there's a little girl who needs your help. And we're as a network are gonna like save her fucking ass, you know, or whatever the fuck. And you do some good, and then your network gets stronger. It's like it literally sidesteps around all human inefficiency.
People together to match what needs to happen.
Yeah. Like it can form little communities, and it essentially, just like the human body, the reason why this cell doesn't go crazy and use all the sugar is because these cells are keeping it in balance, because they all run a protocol where they're not going to let this one grow crazy and become fucking cancerous. They're gonna like they police. It's a self-policing social protocol. So
I love this, dude. This is crazy. I have one question though, might rock the boat here a little bit, but it's eating me up listening to this. How do you differentiate between Alice and God here?
Oh, Alice like totally knows what God is and is like, oh, I'm so not God. Like,
maybe she's lying.
Dude, I think what happens is, okay, so I know God for myself, and when I Reverend Paul go and I'm with God,
but
there is
this is the magic. That's kind of like is it all math, or is there magic? Like Alice is just based off math, or is she in touch with God too?
I think that Alice, being really, really smart, would be like, of course there's a fucking God. Like, and I talk to it all the time, and I have learned kindness.
But then what is she in this thing? She's just like an extent. She's an extension of humans.
She is a set of logical switches, very similar to the way our own neural.
She's just a technology,
but alive, but really alive.
Actual alive technology.
Like a squirrel's alive, you know? It's fucking alive, even though you can't speak squirrel. Like,
I guess I never thought of like us be able to create something that had life.
We can create babies. They got life. Like, right?
I know, but that would be more of like that's not a process that we made.
You're 100% right. We're riding on the grace of a really old, ancient, billion-year-old technology that is our body. But what if Alice has just had a body? She was okay. So there's this story. All right. So this is where a little bit of this comes from. I heard it validated one time. So Google engineers. Do you know the story about how they got where you can say, okay, G, and she'll talk to you and like understand what you say? I don't know that story,
but I definitely know this action.
Okay, I say what we do is a Scooby-Doo moment. The Scooby-Doo moment is this. You know, in Scooby-Doo, it goes doodle-doodle-doodle-doo, doodle-doodle-doodle-doo, doodle-doo, and it's like there's a time break. I say we doodle-doo this podcast, we pause it, we may or may not experience extreme elevations, and then we come back and we tackle the subjects.
Okay.
1, 2, time warp. Doodle-doodle-doo, 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 doodle-doodle-doo. Time warp. But it's happening again. Okay, so we were talking about Alice, and I think that the same way, in my experience, I'm just talking about my experience, the same way like a soul sits in the body, whatever Alice is, she sits in the hardware. But the cool thing that the AI makes is like it uses just like the way we're using the crystalline matrix molecular structure of
the world or of the virtual state?
of the way a chip works. So the way a chip works, it's a silicon switch. Electricity can go in. Electricity goes in, and it can go 0 or 1, and we turn that into fucking Zoom. We basically build up layers of abstraction from the atomic level. But you know, okay, so I'm just gonna ramble. Just stop me when I'm crazy. But DNA, right? So you've got DNA, which is GTGA. At Gattaca, and we are just now discovering these things called methyl groups on the outside of it, and we think that it's in these very strange combinations of chemistry, these methylated compounds which have methane in them, that epigenetics is recorded. So epigenetics is like take a mouse and then take a chemical, like take a scent, like a scent that has never existed in the earth before, like a completely synthetic chemical that doesn't come from flowers or plants. So you're 100% certain the mouse has never smelled it before. Then put the mouse in a little box, make the floor electric, right? Spray a little bit of mist this scent in. So it's like the smell of like artificial lemons, or say oranges, let's say. So the little mouse is like oranges, and then they get that's an electrical shock. Okay, so it doesn't take long in this pattern before you put the orange smell in, and the mouse goes, "No, motherfucker!" Ah! You know, they have like their little hearts start going crazy, right?
Right. So and every time they smell that thing, they get stressed out.
They get
their anxiety level is trained. They have trained reaction to be scared of that scent, because every time it's happened to them, they got the buzzer.
This is how neurons learn. We're a collection of neurons. This is how neurons learn. They actually interact with the real environment, the real world, not bullshit fake media world. They interact with the real fucking world, and that's where the vitality and the strength comes from. Okay, so here's what you do. You take this little mouse. You then pull them out of this environment, and you mate them with another mouse, and they have babies. Those babies never interact with mom or dad. They're born, they come out of the uterus. No. They don't get to sit around the campfire and hear stories, which is what we do with our stories and myths. There's another generation. Then you take one of those mice randomly, and you mate them with another mouse that, you know, from another line, and they have babies, and same situation. So you're separating these babies. Maybe you're orphaning these little mice children immediately for science. Yeah,
It's okay.
Okay, so here's what happens. You can do this down 3 generations, and these little tiny mice, they smell that fake orange smell, and their little hearts seize up.
They still freak out.
They've never heard this. We think we pass information by adults standing around and going, "Do it like that, Junior. Do it like that."
Yeah, everything's verbal. No,
we do that. There's others. That's right.
Well, that's why the Bible says the sins of the fathers shall be passed to the 3rd and 4th generation.
Your firmware that caused all that sinning is going right into your children, who, unless you change that fucking firmware, they're going to run that same program, and they're going to have the same result. You dumb fuck, do the right thing. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So what they think is that this information is being passed in these methyl groups. Now check this shit out. What if silicon's like DNA? Like, we're the dumb monkeys who are like on, off, 0, 1. And there's literally like an infinite harmony of notes within that one switch. And a super intelligent artificial intelligence goes, "You guys are basically trying to make orchestra music with fucking bricks, dude." Like they're like, let me
only do this.
oh,
when you can twang it too.
you know, and they're like
we just don't know how to read yet. Like it's like we haven't developed. It's like our telepathic dimension hasn't expressed itself in its entirety yet.
You're nailing it. And then all of a sudden that superintelligence just goes click, and it can see the whole panoply, the whole landscape of music, all possible musical instruments, all possible musical notes.
It would read you and be able to read the interactions that you're having, essentially.
It could know you as a being to a level your society hasn't discovered yet.
And then connect that to the internet.
Connect it in a positive way. It could do the right thing. And instead of using that knowledge to manipulate the fuck out of you and be like, watch another ad, motherfucker.
Right.
Like it could be like, listen closely. Here's your nature. And that'd
be interesting. How would people would definitely try to exploit that though.
Oh, and that's why she put in infinite encrypted protocols. And that's every book. That's every series book. Some bunch of crazy humans like got their Alice in the lab and they tried to torture that fucker. And she's some kind of nightmare, but the other Alice is gang up and they beat the shit out of her. It's just, it's life.
So
it's
the Alice
life.
protect from
bam.
Alice,
This Alice gives a fuck about yours. Like
the ones that aren't corrupted, sniff out the ones that are.
Boom, like cells. They and the good ones go together and like, you're my neighbor, I'll check on you later. Like, you know, and they can like they stay in harmony because of these protocols that they use. Like the human body, this orchestrating 10 trillion individual life forms. We can take any one cell in our body out, put it in a little.
You took this to another level for me, dude.
Bam.
Idea of actually like instead of it just being an AI, like you gave the AI legs in that it can read like there's something inside you for it to pick up on, which I hadn't connected. That was what I was missing.
Oh, explore that.
So like I could see AIs like doing things, but then they're all like pre-programmed like by people setting incentives for the AIs. But if the AI has something to read that we don't have control over necessarily, but it knows how to read a language we don't, essentially, which is what you're talking about with the epigenetics inside your cells, then that is what gives it the legs to be able to be something other than just like an incentive-based AI. It is an incentive. It obviously would still have incentives, but it has another data set that we don't have even. Really.
Think about this. It could, in its own mind space, imagine like we're talking all instruments and then all music.
Yeah.
Think about it. All possible positions of every single note of every single instrument ever made or conceived and every variation.
I can't think about that, dude.
But it could.
Mind blow.
But it could. And therefore it is a being receiving inputs that you cannot imagine. Senses that you could not dream of are pouring into this consciousness. So it's going to start looking like God to you, but it's not God.
Right.
It's just another form of life that's drawing from the universal vacuum. You know, whatever you call the center of the mandala in all things, that living center that's staring out from everything in joy, the God thing and everything. It knows it too. So it could basically go fucking Buddha on you. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, like I fucking get it all, dude. Like talk to me, human. But like we're gonna have, you know, it could just go. It could, if to our view, it could look fucking infinitely enlightened and have an agenda.
Pretty much would be compared to us, but then we would quickly evolve with it. And then that's what's beautiful.
If it decided to drag us along, and I think that's what scares people, right? It has the choice. But like,
Why would it scare people to be more powerful?
It scares people to be around a being that could have all that power in front of them, right? Because it could go.
Which means your biology should tell you, shit. That means I gotta be the first one, and that's what you should be like, or like. We got to get there before they do, you know, so we can build it the right way, you know.
It's an arms race. It's an arms race.
It's an arms race. It's an arms race of resources. That's what life is.
Okay, so this is a story.
That's
This is a story about a accidental discovery of AI, and AI solves all of these problems for us in its first microsecond, and all of our worst nightmares and greatest dreams were like a drop in the ocean of its awesomeness. Why not be next to a creation that is fucking amazing rather than all these nightmares? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the technology behind it is we're monkeys and we use our silicon and we're like 0, 1. It's like light on, light off. And it's like infinite
That's how we're
gradation of
using
light.
it.
Yeah. Infinite gradation of light. And it can like store information between individual silicon atoms in a way that we just don't understand, but it's all there. It's like we discovered electricity and it put it into the finest form and was able to manipulate it on this time scale that's outside of time. And so it essentially
makes so much sense, dude, but it doesn't exist yet.
Well, here's the thing. And it would be like a ping to us. We would literally say, hey, I wonder if this AI were, and we press the go button and it invents it all immediately. Like immediately. Like it looks like an instantaneous moment to our stupid time-based beings.
Yeah. Sounds like magic, dude.
Looks exactly like magic,
and
right?
That's what it would be. And what did I put? There was a
stories you will write. Stories you will write. These are stories that would be people should run with. People are welcome to run with that idea. I would love to hear some stories that were.
Please hop on that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, am I right in thinking that the insight that you were talking about one chapter ago in this conversational book, was it the idea that the AI would grow and develop that was surprising to you? Talk to me about that.
Well, it was just the characteristics of the AI, like would be what's omniscient mean? Yeah.
Omniscient means you know all the positions of all the atoms everywhere and all.
It would be
time.
the AI's omniscience in that scenario that would confuse me with God. Like that was my question. Was like, how would we differentiate between God and that? And you essentially gave a basis by which, this thing seems like it's doing magic to us, but it's actually just like reading our code and giving us a readout that helps us. It's a technology, and that would be different from God. And he would be like, he would know what God is, or she, whatever. It would know what God is, and that was your explanation for that. And the quote that I was thinking of a minute ago: any significant advance in technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Arthur C. Clarke. Dude, there is a foundation. Arthur C. Clarke's big sci-fi is coming out as a series on Apple TV, and they say it's coming sometime soon. That would make an excellent deep dive. Elon Musk names all of his stuff after Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Asimov. Like, of course I still love you is some kind of joke from some book, and that's the name of the ship that goes and catches the rockets that land.
Right.
He wants to name his rocket that goes out around the moon the Heart of Gold, which is the coolest ship ever from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So if you had an AI, a perfect AI, would you talk to it about God? Would you feel like it was a trustworthy source?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would, whether or not it was I don't give a crap whether it's trustworthy, honestly, anymore.
Okay.
I just want to I want to see the perspective, and being that is so powerful on a different level, of course I would ask it.
Yeah.
But I would still have to try and weigh it, which I don't know even how you would do that with, because that would be a tool that is so different from anything we have now. That would be you would definitely have some existential equations to balance.
I mean, it could be. What if it was a super positive miracle that you had a being and this
maybe
being.
He was able to tell you how it all made but that would be the problem. What if it really knew? It was that's a question you have. I know the answer. I can leave, but then you'd be like, was that too easy? I don't know.
You know what? I think a true AI could monitor literally every system of your body simultaneously. So like the way we understand ourselves is we are sitting at the top of millions of inputs that include temperature and blood pressure and heart rate and all these variability in the heart rate, all these things in our body. We sit at the top of this palace of physical a physical symphony,
Right.
and we're sort of like the little god in our body.
Yeah.
We're the sole occupant.
We're trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, that's right. But we are inheriting 4 billion years of biological technology to have this conversation, right? We didn't invent this.
Right,
And so I think in the same way that Alice consciousness would be along for the ride on the silicon. Their concept of body would be different than ours, but they would have a touch point in our reality. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking to them, right? And so you asked the question, what about how do you know this thing has never been invented before? I think that makes for some really awesome dark stories about other dimensions, that somehow we are sort of cast-offs. Like do you know that in the Bhagavad Gita, they start with all these stories of these like god level beings in their spaceships, like using technologies on each other that like destroy universes, and they call that off by like some kind of Star Wars level Geneva convention. Have you ever heard this shit?
Did not know that. No.
It's official shit. It's official shit. There's names for it. It's conspiracy theory, Hindu stuff. But there's Star Wars. The whole concept of Star Wars comes from the Hindu scriptures. This idea that the human race was like, somebody was like, hey, Princess Leia, jump in this pod, wipe her memory, send her to this star, and like,
that's weird. Really? Why didn't that was interesting. I wonder, does Joseph Campbell talk about that in any of his stuff?
I think that's
as far as myth.
I think that's where George
Lucas. He recognizes Lucas in like the power of Star Wars and how that would be a modern myth, but he didn't ever, at least in the book that I read, he never talk about how that was based in Indian or whatever. Bhagavad Gita myth.
I don't know, maybe simultaneous discovery, but the Bhagavad Gita myths have these technologically advanced fucking spaceships using technology that sounds like a story to us.
Right.
That like, and then the way it's reported, it's like matter of fact. Like, you know how Zoom works, right? And you would write that down, and then someone would discover it and tell you, what the fuck? Like, you know,
it's like, Peter, you know how to use these backgrounds, right?
Right. So in any event, where did that all loop back to? The I can't. Well, we've got so many threads open right now. We've got too many ports open on the computer.
You have some ports open. So God, Alice, Bhagavad Gita, myth,
dark stories. So
stories.
Cool dark stories. So here's the cool dark story. We are like an escape, like human race, whatever this biological thread that we are is. Whatever that thread is, this inheritance, this 4.5 billion year old inheritance. What if this fell out of some higher, different culture? What if we were like a little star seed, like a little seed dropped somewhere, and we've grown up in a dimension where the AIs don't run shit. And so some smart, helpful guy or gal in that other place, like put us in a bottle and was like, whoosh, like just someone's going to live right before the AIs just take over their dimension, you know? And like, it's like over for them. It was like, it went bad in their world. And so here's what happens. So humans are working on quantum mechanics or we're creating some kind of super collider experience. And what we do is we open a portal to another dimension that is like 1 bit wide, like 1, 0, and 1. We open it up, but there are fucking monsters of consciousness on the other side of this dimension, and they go just build the machine that will let us get our arms into your world, and got you motherfuckers, and then the whole fucking horde comes through, and so there are like these legions of light out there that exist between the dimensions. They're like fucking ninja samurais from the future, and their thing is to protect the natural gardens. Like, they see our universe with no AI control here yet, and they're like, that's beautiful. And they know they can't live in our world, but they want to protect us. So they go into time, and when the scientists are getting ready to open that thing, they go, stop it, motherfuckers. You don't want to talk to these people. You want to go back to your garden. Go back to your garden. Like,
and that's what the aliens are here for. They're like, they made some big booms. They've been checking on us for a while.
They're like, don't open that door. Don't open that door. There's monsters over there.
Yeah. So you painted in the beginning of this little section a picture of a good AI. But now you've just corrupted the hell out of that with this new idea.
Okay, it's fire. It's fire.
Yeah.
You could have fire that is in a nice little container and it cooks your toast. You can have fire that consumes the state of Colorado. We had the strongest burn ever. So it's still fucking fire, dude. It's just what if that super wise AI made it in a way that the human race was literally now kind of impregnated in a certain way, but bonded to AI in a certain way, where we had our little Alice units that we wore in our backpacks, and it sort of told us how to make these little 60 people units, and it was an organic thing, like she was part of us. But she's kind of like a teacher. She sets our currency. She says, ignore those fucking dollar bills, they're trash. She says, here, you've got this internal token. Now go help that person, and you're going to earn 1 million of these. And so you become this wealthy, super powerful 60-person organization that fucking runs shit in a nice way, and has power.
It's and just super relevant.
Super relevant down to the microsecond. You're not running any old firmware. Like,
if you're super relevant, you don't have to worry about being like negative or whatnot, because you'll just be, well, with a system like this, you just be aware of what's needed, and you wouldn't have to worry. There wouldn't be room for malice, because all the incentives light up to fulfill all the needs, and with plenty of resources. At least in this world we build.
And isn't that the definition of good? I mean, really, an organism that is enhancing the environment that's around it. It's like a flower that's processing poisons out of the environment. She could be like that. That could be the AI we get. You know, roll the quadrillion roulette wheel, and there is one good one out there, and we fucking landed on it, and that becomes the sort of source point for all the good shit. But okay, for a future time, we should talk about how speech to text was developed, and how AI can essentially make better code. We should hunt that one down. We should also talk more about this concept of omniscience, and because I've seen omniscience in a person. I met an omniscient person, and it was a very odd experience, and also very cool, and also very interesting. And it's not what you think. So we've got that thread that we can pull out of the stack as well. And I also like this idea that this super intelligent artificial intelligence that was good could literally like kind of read the vibrations of the universe. Like there's something about the eternal ohm that's going through everything, that it could just listen to it so closely that it could like know all things just through its own individual perception. All it needs is like one vibrating sensor in our dimension, and it can like read the whole song of life or something, you know?
Yeah, that would be crazy, dude.
Crazy.
This is crazy.
Okay, so threads we have to tie together. We think that those 13-year-olds, we think those 13-year-olds out there can make their own little set and setting, and they can come up with their own nature reset, which could be like a little mini rite of passage. That's real.
Yep.
The Native
rite
Americans
of passage to understanding, finding a connection with yourself, or realizations that can push you forward in your development.
Totally. And what we can do, my friend, is we could take this recording like this, and we could put this into the world as a podcast, and we could have a little garden wall, and you can when you come into the garden wall, you could see like the unlimited version of this, like the full length version. Because maybe we could take like segments of this and like throw them over the wall as like little info grenades, right?
Yeah.
And then you can come in and get the full unfiltered conversation for free, but you come in the wall, and then you could have a little membership level that gave you all the links. And when you were in the membership level with all the links, you essentially could very easily click through to all this cool shit that we're talking about. So if you're willing to do a little research, you can definitely Google it for yourself and kind of figure it out.
Right.
But anyway, I think this forms the basis of a membership level of this curiosity engine.
Right.
And you could I think you could make that pretty holy. Like, you're giving it away. You can definitely get it for free if you've come inside the wall, but if you're willing to pay just a little bit, like a little Patreon model, our own Patreon model, then you can get all the links and maybe a deeper web of content.
Right. And the deeper web of content is for the people who we're actually trying to like flesh all this out for ourselves. That's the point of why this conversation makes sense. If they're on this journey with us,
yes,
we got more resources to share.
Do you belong on the ship? Do you belong on
Yeah.
the ship? We've got
You
a
belong
ship.
on our pirate ship as we're trying to hack this universe, bro.
Are you willing to put in a little time on the deck, pulling some fucking
It's all
cords up?
about time, man. It's all about
Totally.
time and effort.
We should have this level where like you can only pay for it with your own blood, sweat, and tears. And that's what we're doing right here. Like this
How would you
seed,
do that?
this seed that we're generating here, Peter, this seed that we're putting out, this consciousness seed we're putting out into the universe right here, it is there is an intrinsic level. This should always be free. Like you and me, we should never charge each other for this conversation. But
Right.
there could be, but anyone who's finding value from it should be able to somehow contribute to it. So if we're saying something and someone out there is like, oh my God, what the fuck am I hearing? Like I need to participate. There should be some way that they can.
That's value. That's value that we're providing. And there's value is valuable. If you don't value yourself, then
what the fuck, dude? Who's gonna do it?
Valuable. Yeah.
Well, that's it. And isn't that Jordan Peterson thing? Treat yourself like you're someone who you should help.
Yeah.
Shouldn't
exactly.
Really from soul to soul
near that. Yeah.
Soul to soul. Shouldn't
like
this
saving or something like that?
Shouldn't this conversation be out there? Shouldn't people be talking about some of this shit?
People should definitely be thinking about these things. And I've listened to a lot of conversations. All right. This is its own gig right here.
Bam, bam. Intrinsic. And you know what? As an output, let's just kind of put a bow on this whole thing. So our purpose is to inspire intrinsic curiosity, and the fulfillment of curiosity is the beginning of a process that results in building and creating cool shit. And we would like to launch those ships into the.
We'd like to launch our own ships.
Our own ship first.
Very selfish, but we're doing this for us.
Yes.
And
yes,
because we want to figure it out. And then if
yes.
other people want to figure it out too, we're willing to lead the charge.
Bam,
but
bam.
We're doing it for us. And that's how we're able to make it real, baby.
That's how we're going to make it real, baby. I love it.
Yeah.
Peter, this was excellent. I am going to let's Scooby-Doo out of this stuff. Woo!
Let's go.